This is the Fifth Estate winning headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 9th of December 2019 and I am 2J.
I am Tuam.
And I am GK, and in case you missed the headlines, here they are. In the Standard, governors disown Sonko. Daily Nation, Raila, leave 2022 talk out of BBI. And in the Star, why Uhuru yet to name new Auditor General.
Yes.
Let us begin with the Standard.
Yes.
Sonko.
And Sonko is still in the headlines.
Yes, he spent the weekend
in cell.
in coolers.
In cells. Now, governors disown Sonko. Yesterday, I think COG chair, Governor Paranya,
Council of Governors.
Council of Governors, he sent
A statement.
that they want an emergency executive summit held between the governors and the president. And this is to discuss what will befall Nairobi if at all Nairobi doesn't have a deputy governor. And the law actually, a very mediocre ruling by one of the High Court judges, said that a governor once charged in court cannot go back to office. And therefore, because Nairobi does not have a deputy governor, we are sort of in constitutional limbo.
Yeah, you have a unique situation.
Yes.
Because we don't know who will take over. We have the Speaker Elachi who is in a tumultuous situation as well.
Absolutely.
But I will say, I think the way that they went about arresting him is problematic.
No, it's those are things that happen in banana republics.
Yeah.
Look, but again, what has happened today is also very interesting.
Yes.
That you have lawyers. This guy had
12 of them.
12 lawyers across the board. And what shocked me is William Ruto's allies, Murkomen, and I think there was Farouk Kibet over there.
Yeah, there was Kilonzo.
There was Mutula Kilonzo, and then there was Dan Manzo, all senior guys in Wipeout. It tells you that people are not very happy about Haji's display.
Happened.
You know,
I know.
And maybe it also could be signs of a rebellion.
Yeah.
Now, if you are going to arrest a man, Sonko, who got more votes than any other candidate in Nairobi, it tells you that he could be planning a rebellion against someone.
Oh my goodness. I don't know how you got that far.
I know, but this whole thing has sort of led me think about why would IEBC have allowed Sonko to run in the first place? If I were the previous candidates, Miguna, Tekanda, whoever, I would seriously think about suing IEBC, right? Because
he had no business
would he
running
have
for
passed?
governor.
No, it doesn't make sense.
But guys,
or is it one of the aliases that passed?
You see, the thing is, this when Sonko was applying to be governor of Nairobi, he must have appended a signature. Now, he's telling us that all this time, that by the time, how many years has it been? About 3 years or 2 years, that it's only now that they have realized that this man was a convicted felon.
Well, Haji in his statement used all of Sonko's aliases, which means I think he wants to cast a wider net onto all the crimes. I think Shimolato prison also wants their hand in where their prisoner may have disappeared to.
I saw that.
So I think there's going to be a lot more in it for Sonko, which makes sense why the Council of Governors wants to figure out what the next steps would be.
You know what? You guys voted for him, so that's your problem.
I don't have a problem with Sonko. What I have a problem with is someone sitting up in 7 o'clock in the morning, you're calling the media and you're telling them, I am going, just issue the statement to the arresting authorities. You don't need to make it seem like it's a
So what do we think of the headline?
Well, we do have a 3-part criteria that we normally use to break down the headline. We ask ourselves, is it topical or speculative? Is it repetitive or groundbreaking? And is it thoughtful or just plain lazy?
The headline might be misleading because I think we're saying that the governors probably did not disown him.
And also they took issue with how he was arrested, as well as how Tutu was arrested.
Absolutely.
So they're looking out for their own in many ways, right? So in the Daily Nation, we have Raila. He had an interview in Kigali. So there's currently a festival called the Kusi Ideas Festival, hosted by President Kagame. And Raila was our most high Kenyan representative.
You cannot be serious.
Oh yes, along with Tshisekedi of DRC. I mean, it was a very interesting idea. And basically he had an interview and he spoke basically about 3 things from what we can tell from the article. Basically, he said that Mudavadi, in his new tell-all, is only telling a story the gospel according to Saint Musalia Mudavadi.
But he suffers from serious memory
lapses. He's telling history according to himself, right? And he didn't even want to discuss any more about that. He also discussed RUTO, and he said what he has with RUTO is not personal. He does not bear a grudge. It's just politics. It's just the business that they happen to be in.
Of politics,
Exactly. And he also talked about BBI. He said that BBI, the intention of BBI is not to pave the way for himself and Uhuru Kenyatta in 2022, but to unite Kenyans. In fact, he said he wants Raila wishes that BBI would promote a Kenyan identity. Yes. And that he is for a popular referendum. But it comes down to the
how can you leave 2022 talk out of BBI? They are one and the same.
One and the same. If you're going to change the structure of the executive, you're going to expect that it's going to impact what happens in 2022.
But give it to Baba, though. I would say the same thing. If I was in his position, I would say the same thing. But also one thing he said that he does not agree with the manner of arrest.
Yes, he did say that. He said he had reservations on how he was arrested.
How SONKO
and I think it's that thing of, listen, if it can happen to him, it can happen to anyone.
Anybody.
And I think for them, they have to protect their own as the political elite.
Absolutely.
I will say he was very stately. Giving
but maybe even this is probably President Uhuru should be able to see this, because if Raila is defending the how SONKO was mistreated, then this man could also play some other cards on Uhuru.
Today is reading mystery into everything.
Conspiracy. Finally, the star.
So can we toss that though?
Okay.
Because you cannot divorce 2022
from BBI. True.
It's not happening. In the Star, why Uhuru has not yet named Auditor General. So since Ouko left. December 3rd, he was to have named given to
the National Assembly
so that they can go to Parliament to be vetted. He didn't. He received names that he didn't.
You see,
quite like.
There's a new MO, modus operandi, by the president. He receives names, and this is the second time. The other time it was by JSC. He received 11 judges' names. He did not appoint them. Now he's received 3 names from the Public Service Commission that was forming a panel. And that panel chose 3 people, and Uhuru has not decided to, has not acted on those 3 names. And how he's been acting, if you notice, is he relies on intelligence reports. So if the intelligence reports on these 3 people show that they're not suitable, or maybe he's suffering from the hangover of Robert, what's his name? Ouko, this Auditor General. Because Ouko really messed him up. Then he will be careful. He will be careful.
And listen, the Auditor General is the person who audits all the accounts of the country. So this person should not be picked lightly. This person must be able to hold government accountable so that you're operating from a good scientific database. Like you have the right data of which to use even as you're doing CBK accounts, your treasury, everything else. County government. And also, importantly, the Auditor General must be independent.
Absolutely.
So you cannot be brought out.
But
he or she.
Ouko almost messed up the Eurobond thing by saying that there was some...
That the money was misused.
Now, if you're going to international markets to borrow money and your Auditor General is coming out those kind of statements,
that does not inspire confidence.
Then it will not inspire confidence with investors.
I'm going to say, guys, we don't have a winning headline today.
I
think that one is too wordy, it's very boring, and this one is confirmed live.
And misleading.
There you go. We do not have a winning headline. Thanks, TJ. On to our political pieces that we call cartoons in this country, where we also have a 3-part criteria. We ask ourselves, is it humorous or dry? Is it satirical or pessimistic? And is it effective or just plain lazy?
Yes, and Ozone has given us the caricature of the ODPP himself, Haji. And Haji has a plaque on the wall.
His trophies.
His trophies. And the wall has been captioned Big Game. Game number 1 is Henry Rotich. The trophy number 1. Trophy number 2 is Ferdinand Waititu. And trophy number 3 is Governor SONKO. And he seems to be very pleased with himself. But the caption down there is big names, zero convictions. And Ozone couldn't be, he's very right. He's very right. This man has 0 convictions ever since he started prosecuting people. But then I also wonder, why doesn't Haji show up to court? I mean, if a DA was going to get Gotti or the mafia guys
in the
US, he would show up to court and you'd be able to defend his position. I think Haji, if he's getting 0 convictions, I think it is time he shows up to court and then he meets the big lawyers so that they can argue out the cases instead of telling us what is happening in the media.
All right, I think it's a good
pocket.
Yep.
Okay. So in the Daily Nation, we have Iga every Monday. Welcome. And he has a very fat man on a bed, looking like a hospital bed, and his T-shirt says "Scandal after scandal."
You have to say it properly.
Oh no, I'll leave that to play. Yeah, play the song.
After scandal.
Scandal after scandal.
On his IV is attached to many Kenyans strung together. It looks like we're sucking the blood out of our people. Yeah.
It's so pessimistic. It really is. I know it's a little bit accurate, but it's pessimistic. I think some of the context was that Kenya is one of the world's most corrupt countries. We're ranked 143 out of 180.
So this cartoon needs a dustbin.
Yeah, you can toss it. There you go. Finally, Gado.
Gado.
And as always, he takes us international.
This is lovely. Now, there is a caricature of dictators from all around the world, and the caption there is Trump calls in his character witnesses.
Yeah.
And this has to do with the impeachment proceedings against Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Now, his witnesses from the left, we'll start with, it looks like Theodore Obiang. What's his name? Theodore Obiang. And the next is Kim Jong-il. This one is I think is Egyptian. I don't know.
Sisi?
Abdel Sisi, but Sisi is a bit short.
Next, your best friend?
Magufuli. And then I think this one looks like Erdogan, Turkish president, Museveni, and then Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. So the context here is that he is able to call character witnesses in his impeachment trial.
Yes.
But the Senate have to approve who those witnesses are.
Yes. And according to Gado, the people Trump may call may not be of
good
character or what? Like I don't know.
No, they're not to be strongmen.
Just like him.
Strongmen, just like him.
I think it's a big cartoon. Deciding between the Star and the Standard.
I like the Star.
I like the Star because it is current, it is local, and it is saying the truth.
There you go. The Star gives us our winning cartoon. So what is our final thought?
And now our final thought. It is inspired by a book entitled A Rage for Order: The Middle East in Turmoil from Tahrir Square to IS. ISIS, as Africans would like to call it.
ISIS.
ISIS. ISIS.
Who says is?
Oh my days.
Let me defend Kenyans.
Is by Robert Wolf. And this beautiful book, and takeaway from this book was the origins of the Arab Spring. It happened in Tunisia. On a day, December 17th, 2010, a man called Mohamed Bouazizi, this guy used to endesha mkokoteni in Tunisia. And as he's riding his pushcart, there was vegetable produce at the back. 2 cops stop him, and they pat him down, ask him for money. And the guy says, "I don't have any money." And the cops, one of them slaps him and insults him. Insults his
They say
father.
they even spat on him.
They spat on him, and they insult his dead father. Then they take his vegetable produce and they take his cut, and the guy is frustrated. So he goes to the municipal office to complain about these 2 officers. Now, at the office, he's told the person in charge is in a meeting, and the person in the meeting cannot see him. So this guy gets frustrated and is angry and is humiliated, and he goes to buy mafuta. He goes to buy fuel, and he douses himself, lights a match, and sets himself alight. As he sets himself alight, of course, the guy gets burned. That was December 17, 2010.
Yep.
January 4th, 2011, he dies in hospital. And immediately thereafter, Tunisians just rise up. Now, they did not rise up. Him burning himself was just the trigger. But they did not just rise up because this guy burned himself. It was a systemic pattern of Tunisians getting beaten up, getting frustrated, getting humiliated by the state. Now, this caused a ripple effect across North Africa, and they should actually change that to North Africa, not just Middle East. All across Libya, all across Egypt. Now, the result of this was this: 3 presidents, Ben Ali of Tunisia, Muammar Gaddafi of Libya, and this guy called Hosni Mubarak. Ben Ali is Tunisia, and Hosni Mubarak of Egypt they were all taken away by this tsunami called the Arab Spring, and they're still in problems today.
Yeah. So just a bit of context before I go into what I wanted to say is that this week we want to look at the decade, right?
Yeah.
So we're entering the 2020s, so we want to look at what has happened in the 2010s, and the first thing we want to start with was the Arab Spring, as something that defined this decade. So in this book, Robert Worth draws on his years of work in the Middle East to give an analysis of the Arab Spring. So he says of this book that he doesn't offer advice or a forecast for what would happen or what could happen, but instead he tries to make sense of the fallout, of the collapse of the political authority and what caused the revolts, what was the root cause of it. So what we see now is what happened in 2011. He says it wasn't the beginning, but it was actually the end. It was the final step of something that had been rotting in the region for decades. So you have these strongmen, these dictators who had spent decades dividing, ruling and exploiting their people, but they could no longer cope with the mounting and deepening economic crises, unemployment, rising food and commodity prices, and corruption. So you see that by 2010, a vast majority of the Arab world was actually under the age of 30. So you have this very young population, but they have no job prospects, despite being more educated than the generations before them. And you have this wealth gap that increased. And most interestingly, he points out, was the rise of the internet and the access to television. So you have people creating and understanding things that they had never understood in a way before. They're sharing a lot of information. And so this is making them realize that the way they are living in the Arab world is not how they're meant to live. They're looking at the West, they're looking at other African countries. And so all of this paved the way for what started in 2010. So you have the fear and the anger in the country growing so much that people would say, all it needs is a match to ignite it, just a spark and it will explode. And it did. So interestingly, he says that Arabs had been burning themselves in protest for years. It was something quite normal that they would do. But what happened with Bouazizi was very different. And he asked the question, why? So reports say that when Bouazizi went to this municipal office and he's shouting outside to them, he screams to them, how do you expect me to make a living? So he's so frustrated that this is the thing that actually just triggers it. So within 1 month of the Tunisian revolt, the dictator, as you said, Ben Ali, was evicted. Then the year after, that a few days later, the Egyptian protest started on January 25th, and 18 days later, Mubarak was out. Then you have it spreading as a wave through to Libya, Yemen, Bahrain, Syria. And so I think it's just understanding how that one trigger completely changed everything.
Absolutely.
Interesting. And Ben Ali of Tunisia actually was given safe haven in Saudi Arabia. So, and you'll see how Saudi Arabia and the monarchs stick together. So they become sort of the safe, they were the guys who are not as impacted by the Arab Spring.
Trusted dynasties.
So the Arab Spring initially began as very hopeful. Right? When we were seeing it even in the media, we're like, wow, this is a fight for democracy in that
for the
region.
people.
But some people, and his book actually makes the argument that it may not have been about democracy at all. It was a fight against conservative Islam and secular Arab regimes. So the strongmen had started to take on this twist that was secular, not moderate, very strongly extreme. Islam and extreme, right? So in Tunisia we have 10 years on, if we look back, a country that's still in a lot of turmoil, and almost that after the Arab Spring, things have been worse for the region, rather than, it had this destabilizing nature rather than this positive transformation. So Tunisia, ISIS has taken such a huge stronghold. Tourism has gone down because people don't want to travel to such countries. In Egypt, you had the shift from Mubarak to Morsi. Morsi was part of the Muslim Brotherhood. And then he was so interested in political control versus actually rectifying sort of the wrongs that Mubarak had done. Instead of, fixing social and economic issues. And so he is overtaken by a general in the army called Sisi, the current president now. Interestingly, across the world, nobody, even America, does not recognize this as a military coup, like as a, an overthrow. And we find in Egypt that the regime now is even more suppressive than it was in Mubarak's time. So that after post-Arab Spring, when we look back, they don't look like they're for the better. And again, in this country where it was heavily reliant on tourism, numbers have gone down, or it is said to have gone down by 40%. Then you have Yemen. Yemen is a country where I think is well known now for having a huge humanitarian crisis. It is said that due to these 3 civil wars, they've been more than 7 million refugees. In fact, we've heard President Kagame is benevolent enough to have taken refugees from Libya and is receiving them as we speak, right? And then you have in Yemen, biggest outbreak or the worst outbreak in the world of cholera. We have famine, we have bombs. I mean, lots of people have died, right? So they're also not much better than they were. And then also Yemen has been used as a proxy war between the Saudis and Iran. And so this Arab Spring also took on this bigger narrative between the Sunni and the Shia. Shia? Shia Muslim. Yes, those guys. And then in Libya, you find Gaddafi being killed. Paraded. I mean, it was all over the news. That image of him being beaten and killed. And then the rebels turned on themselves. So Libya, if anyone knew about the little green book and the promise of, free education, it was the land of milk and honey, and there was a lot of promise that Gaddafi had. Now you have a situation where the rebels have turned on each other. There's civil war.
Over 700 militia groups.
They have slave auctions. So the Libyans themselves are selling people to Europe, putting them in ships to cross the European waters. So also not a better place. And then we have, so like I said, the monarchs are the people who have survived the Arab Spring. And these are Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain. In Bahrain was especially clever because he got help from the
killed
UAE
it so quickly.
And the Emirate military force, and they forced the king to stay and keep his government, right? And so monarchies fared better in this
than presidents.
Arab uprising. Absolutely. And people would say that the Arab Spring, again, had nothing to do with democracy. It's and in the book, he asks, would these Islamists, these really extreme guys, succeed in creating this new order in the Arab world? And I think in some places they are. As they destabilize, they're making some parts of the Arab world more and more extreme.
So many lessons to learn from the Arab Spring. It's crazy that it happened 10 years ago.
Yes, and it's interesting that it never sprinkled down to
exactly.
Africa or Southern Africa.
It probably still is. Look how this guy from Sudan was deposed.
That's true.
Closer than we think.
Who knows where it's coming up next?
So on a day where we had a winning cartoon from the start, but no winning headlines, slow Monday. I want to leave you with this. This was a history of the Arab Spring told through men and women who lived through it. Arab uprisings happened due to a simple demand for something they called the Dawla. And this is a state that accorded its people the promise of real citizenship, of dignity, of hope, and opportunity. And I think those are the things Bouazizi lacked when he burned himself. So the people that have fought and those that are still fighting for this promise are the tour de force of human nature. And we wish them all the best as they continue to fight. And we say keep fighting.
Yes, definitely.
So please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Find us on TV. We're on GoTV, Pan Free to Air, and Star Times. Have a good evening.